In this video, you're going to know exactly 12 unglamorous, almost embarrassingly boring businesses that can put real money in your account every single month without asking you for a single extra hour you don't already have. Not a side hustle, not another thing on your plate after everyone's finally asleep, an actual business running quietly in the background while you're doing literally anything else. Picking up a kid, making dinner, sitting on the couch not thinking about money for once. I've talked a lot on this channel about phase 2. The kind of income that isn't capped by how many hours you personally have in a day. And it's the one thing I get asked about more than anything else. Usually some version of the same question. Okay, Alora, but what does that actually look like? What's the real specific thing I could point to and say that's it? That's the thing I could build. So instead of researching this the usual way, alone at my kitchen table scrolling through industry reports, I actually went and talked to people. Over 10 different women, a few through Renee, a few from a local moms group I've mentioned before, one I met through my sister-in-law, another through the school pickup line. Women who are already quietly doing some version of this right now, while the rest of their life is happening at full volume around them. Between all of those conversations, I ended up with a list of 24 different ways real women are making money while they sleep. Not theory, not something I pulled off a business blog. Actual women, actual numbers, actual months where the deposit showed up whether or not they thought about the business that week. I sat at kitchen tables for some of these conversations. A couple happened over the phone during a nap window, whispered half of it so I wouldn't wake anyone. One woman answered my questions from her car in a school pickup line, engine running, 5 minutes before the bell. That's genuinely who's behind this list. Not consultants, not people with a team, just women fitting these conversations into the same cracks in the day you're probably watching this video in right now. We're covering the first 12 today. The other 12 are coming in a second video because trying to fit all 24 into one sitting would do every single one of them a disservice. And honestly, some of them deserve more than a rushed 30 seconds squeezed in at the end. Here's the thing that kept repeating across almost every single conversation I had, and I want it stuck in your head by the time this video's over. None of these businesses are boring by accident. They're boring on purpose, in a way that actually protects them. Every single woman I talked to landed on the same conclusion from a completely different direction. The work was unappealing enough that hardly anyone else ever bothered showing up for it. If a business sounds unpleasant, unglamorous, or slightly beneath the life you pictured for yourself at 22, that discomfort is doing something for whoever's willing to sit in it anyway. It's keeping almost everyone else out of the room. And there's a second pattern underneath that one. Quieter, but it showed up just as often. Almost none of these women started with a plan that looked anything like where they ended up. They started with one small, slightly awkward first step. A single machine, one client, one unit rented out, and let the second step reveal itself only after the first one was already working. I'll be honest with you, a handful of these felt too small or too odd to take seriously the moment I first heard the number attached to them. I felt that exact same way sitting across from a couple of these women, notebook in my lap, genuinely thinking, that can't be real, that has to be an exaggerated number someone rounded up for a video. It wasn't. I asked most of them to walk me through an actual month, not a best month, not a highlight reel month, just an ordinary one, and the numbers held up every single time. Stay with me anyway, because by the end I promise at least one of these is going to make you say, wait, I actually know someone who does that, and I had absolutely no idea what it was making them. Let's start with the one that surprised me the most when I sat down and actually did the math with the woman who told me about it. Vending machines. She runs 6 of them scattered around 2 office buildings near where she used to work a desk job, and when I asked how she got started, she said the first machine practically fell into her lap because a friend's dentist office had an empty corner of the break room, and nobody had ever thought to fill it. A single well-placed machine can bring in somewhere between $300 and $1,000 a month, and the machine genuinely does not know or care that you're the one running it in between school pickups. Here's what actually matters, and it's not what you'd expect. It's not the snacks inside it. It's the spot it's sitting in. That empty corner by the break room was making exactly $0 a month for whoever owns that building every single month until she offered to put a machine there. She's not really selling chips and soda. She's renting out a piece of floor nobody else had thought to charge for yet. It cost her a little under $4,000 to buy her first machine outright, and she told me the whole thing paid for itself in under a year. Now she restocks all 6 machines on one Saturday morning route while her husband has the kids, and that's the entire time commitment. One morning, once a week. Right next to that one sits a business almost nobody thinks to pair with it, an ATM. One of the women I spoke with actually started here first, before the vending machines, not the other way around. If a location already has real foot traffic and cash tends to change hands there, A small ATM can quietly generate $1,000 to $3,000 a month in fees on its own, and it takes almost nothing to maintain beyond keeping it stocked on a schedule. She told me the businesses that already said yes to her ATM were usually the easiest yes in the world for a vending machine too, because she'd already built the relationship and already had a reason to be walking through the door. One drive out to service both machines covers 2 separate paychecks now, not one, and her actual workload barely noticed the difference. She started with a single machine in a small laundromat 2 years ago, back when her youngest was still in diapers, and she told me the hardest part was never the business itself. It was believing a machine sitting in the corner of a laundromat could actually be considered hers. Third, and this is where the real money tends to hide in plain sight, laundromats. I'll admit it, the numbers on this one stopped me when the woman who owns hers first said them out loud. The average laundromat in this country pulls in somewhere around $150,000 a year, and honestly, that's not even the part that stuck with me most. Here's the part that matters more than the revenue number. Roughly 95% of laundromats are still open 5 years later. Sit with that for a second and compare it to how many little boutiques or trendy cafes you've personally watched open and quietly close in your own town over that same 5 years. She told me plainly, people don't stop needing clean clothes because the economy gets shaky or the news cycle gets scary. That's the entire appeal of a business like this. It doesn't move with your mood, and it doesn't move with anyone else's mood either. She bought hers already running, an existing laundromat with 15 years of customers walking through the door out of habit, instead of building one from an empty storefront, and she said that single decision saved her the 2 or 3 hardest years most new owners never survive. Fourth, self-storage. One woman I talked to owns a small facility outside her city, and every time she drives past a competitor's lot going up nearby, she said it doesn't worry her because the demand keeps climbing faster than the supply does. Newer homes and apartments keep getting smaller, but nobody's actual stuff is getting smaller along with them. 1 in 8 households in this country now rents at least 1 storage unit, and that number keeps climbing every single year, not shrinking. She's not selling anything at all in this business. She's renting out empty space to catch the overflow that everyday life keeps producing, whether or not anyone planned for it. What surprised her most, she said, was who actually rents her units. It's not mostly families between moves like she assumed going in. A growing chunk of her tenants are small online sellers using her units as makeshift warehouses, which means the checks keep coming whether or not anyone in town is packing up a house that month. Fifth, and this one genuinely made me laugh out loud the first time she told me the actual numbers. Parking lots. A woman in one of my online groups manages a single well-located lot near a busy business district, and it brings her somewhere between $10,000 and $30,000 a month. No inventory to manage, no customers to greet with a smile, no product sitting on a shelf going bad, just a fenced-off piece of asphalt in exactly the right spot. It is genuinely making money from a patch of empty ground, and the only thing you're ever competing on is location, which means whoever gets there first basically keeps that advantage for good, because nobody can build a second version of the same corner. She manages the whole thing from her phone, an app that handles payments and a gate that opens itself, and she told me she's gone entire weeks without physically driving past the lot at all. Sixth, portable restroom rentals. I promise this one is on the list for a real reason and not just because it made me raise an eyebrow when she first brought it up. This global market is worth over $20 billion and still climbing, simply because building sites, festivals, and weekend events all need them, and not one person actually wants to own them personally. She buys the units outright, books them out for weddings, construction sites, and weekend festivals, keeps them on a rotating cleaning schedule, and gets paid on every single booking. Notice the pattern forming already, because she said this almost word for word. The less appealing a product is to own, the fewer people ever show up to compete with you for it. She told me she gets the same reaction every time she mentions what she does at a party, a slightly awkward laugh, followed by a genuine question about the numbers, followed by a much longer silence once she actually answers it. Her husband still introduces her at parties by saying she's in event logistics, and she lets him, mostly because explaining the real version takes longer than anyone standing there with a drink actually wants. That's the halfway point, and if you want the real, specific numbers instead of the vague advice that's everywhere else on the internet, that's exactly what this channel exists for. This is genuinely what I built this whole channel around, real conversations and real figures instead of another vague list telling you to just start a business without ever saying what that actually means. Hit subscribe and stay right here for the rest of this list because part 2 goes even further into this same idea with 12 more, and a couple of those conversations surprised me even more than the ones you're about to hear. Seventh, This is the one I actually think a lot of you watching right now could realistically start from your own kitchen table this month with the setup you already have, because that's exactly how the woman who told me about it started hers. Bookkeeping for small businesses. Every single small business owner needs their books kept current, and most of them genuinely deeply hate doing it themselves. They will happily pay $500 to $1,500 a month to hand that entire task off to somebody else. Do the simple math with me the way she did it for me. 10 clients at $1,000 a month each is $10,000 a month, and she told me flat out she doesn't have a fancy certification. What she has is a laptop, a system she built herself out of a free spreadsheet template, and a genuinely solid grasp of how to keep a set of books clean and current. She's not actually selling expertise here, she's selling relief. The specific relief of someone else finally handling the one task on their list they've been quietly avoiding for weeks. She started with a single client, a friend's small landscaping business, doing the books for free just to build a real example she could point to, and within 8 months, word of mouth alone had filled her calendar without a single dollar spent on advertising. 8th, cleaning, both homes and offices. This is the one people underestimate the hardest, because it sounds like something literally anyone could do, and it is, which is exactly why the money in it surprised even the woman doing it once she actually looked closely. 5 recurring weekly clients can bring a solo operator somewhere between $5,000 and $8,000 a month. Scale that up to a small crew of 4 people, which is exactly what she eventually did. And you're looking at $25,000 to $40,000 a month, with real profit margins in the 35 to 50% range. Her secret was never cleaning better than the next person. It was keeping the same client for years instead of constantly chasing a brand new one every single week. She hires other moms almost exclusively now, women who need hours that end before school pickup. And she said that one hiring decision alone is why she's never once had trouble filling a shift. 9th, pest control. It's the last business anyone brings up on purpose, right up until the night they spot something scurrying across the kitchen floor, and that exact reaction is the whole business model. According to the woman who runs a small pest company I spoke with, a monthly pest contract renews itself quietly in the background month after month because no restaurant or building owner wants to gamble on a health inspection going badly. This is one of the rare services on this entire list where the customer comes looking for you instead of you having to go looking for them, and that one detail changes almost everything about how the relationship works and how much leverage you actually have. She told me her slowest month last year still beat her best month in the job she left, and she's never once had to discount her rate to keep a client, because the client is the one who's nervous about losing her. She started with just 2 accounts, a small bakery and a family dental office, both referred by a neighbor, and she said the moment it stopped feeling like a favor and started feeling like a business was the day the second contract renewed itself automatically without her having to ask. 10th, pressure washing. Low cost to start, no special license required, and here's the detail that actually matters more than the entry price. According to the woman who's been doing it for 3 years now, smart operators in this business skip the one-off jobs from strangers online almost entirely. They lock in year-long deals directly with building owners and property managers, which means the deposit shows up on schedule whether or not that particular week had any new customers in it at all. She bought her equipment secondhand for under $2,000 total, ran it evenings and weekends for the first year while still working her day job, and only left that job once her contract income had quietly matched her paycheck for 3 months running. 11th, tool and equipment rental. Think back to the last time you needed something genuinely expensive for exactly 1 weekend, a pressure washer, a section of scaffolding, a specialty saw for one specific project. Most people don't want to buy that outright for a single use, and small contractors feel exactly the same way about their own jobs, which is exactly the gap one of the women I spoke to built her whole business around. She buys each piece of equipment exactly once, then rents it back out to a different contractor over and over across its whole working lifespan, until the original cost disappears completely, and everything after that is just pure profit sitting in a garage. She started with 1 pressure washer and a single scaffolding set she bought used off a job site closing down, and 4 years later she has a small fleet of equipment parked in a rented storage unit, which, she pointed out to me almost as a joke, is itself business number 4 on this list, just quietly working for someone else in the background. And the 12th one ties all 11 of these together, so stay with me for one more moment, because this is the one thing every single woman I talked to said in some form, without me even asking directly. Here it is. A few of these hand you a payment one single time. The strong ones on this list pay you again next month too. And the month after that, without you having to repitch yourself to the same person twice. That's the entire complete difference between something that slowly exhausts you over time and something that quietly compounds in the background while you're standing at school pickup, not thinking about it at all. I want to circle back to my friend Renee for a second because this is exactly the season she's sitting in right now, today, not some hypothetical future version of her. You've heard me mention her before on this channel. 3 years ago, she started building her own version of Phase 2, and it genuinely was not glamorous in the beginning, not even a little. She's not chasing a laundromat or a parking lot right now. She's looking at bookkeeping specifically, since out of everything on this list, it's the only one that slots into the hours she's already got instead of asking her week for brand new ones. And honestly, she's the reason 2 of the women on this list agreed to talk to me in the first place. She told me something last week that stuck with me since. She said the businesses that scared her a little at first were usually the exact ones nobody else wanted to touch, and that fear was slowly starting to feel like the whole point instead of a warning sign telling her to stop. She hasn't taken on her first client yet, and she told me that part honestly, not to make the story sound tidier than it actually is. She's still building her system, still second-guessing the price she should charge, still doing the exact thing every single woman on this list did in the very beginning, which is starting anyway, before she feels fully ready for it. Here's what I actually want you to take from all 12 of these, more than any single number I gave you today. None of them are exciting. Not one of them makes a good caption or a good story at a dinner party, and that's precisely exactly why there's still room in every single one of them for someone like you. The businesses everyone online is chasing right now are crowded specifically because everyone is chasing them at the same time. The ones on this list sit wide open, mostly untouched, because they sound like plain work instead of opportunity, and most people scroll right past them without a second thought. Every single woman I sat with for this video told me the exact same thing without me ever asking for it directly. Nobody warned them how ordinary the actual work would feel once they were inside it, restocking a machine, running a route, keeping a ledger. It never felt like the beginning of something. It just felt like a Tuesday. And that's precisely the part they only recognized as the turning point looking backward, months later, once the deposits had already been showing up on their own for a while. Drop a comment and let me know which of these 12 genuinely surprised you today, or whether you already know someone quietly running one of them without ever realizing what it was actually bringing in every month. Part 2 is already coming, with the next 12 from that same list of 24, and a few of them are even less expected than anything I covered today. I'm Alora, this is the Finance Mom HQ, raising kids and retirement funds. Go take care of both, and I'll see you in the next one.